The sun dipped low over the Los Angeles skyline, casting a golden glow across the sprawling city of dreams, where ambition and secrets danced in equal measure. In the heart of Hollywood, the air buzzed with the usual hum of gossip, paparazzi flashes, and the clinking of champagne glasses at exclusive parties. But tonight, something seismic was brewing, something that would rattle the polished facades of Tinseltown's elite. Joe Rogan, the fearless podcaster known for his unfiltered takes and unrelenting curiosity, was about to drop a bombshell so massive it would send shockwaves through the industry. His target? None other than the golden couple of Hollywood, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. 4 years, they'd reigned supreme. Charming, witty, and untouchable. Ryan, with his Deadpool swagger and gin empire, and Blake, the ethereal beauty who'd transitioned from Gossip Girl to A-list royalty, seemed to have it all. But Joe Rogan, with his microphone and millions of listeners, was about to peel back the curtain on a story that would leave jaws on the floor and the internet ablaze. The whispers had started weeks ago, faint ripples in the online ether, but no one could have predicted the storm that was coming. If you love Joe Rogan and his fearless pursuit of truth, subscribe to the channel now. Don't miss a second of this wild ride. It all began innocently enough, or so it seemed. Ryan and Blake had been promoting their latest joint project, a glossy rom-com that promised to charm audiences and rake in box office millions. Their red carpet appearances were picture-perfect, Ryan cracking self-deprecating jokes, Blake glowing in designer gowns, their chemistry a beacon of relationship goals. Fans ate it up, tabloids swooned, and social media crowned them the king and queen of modern Hollywood. But Joe Rogan wasn't buying it. On a crisp April evening in 2025, with the current date being April 8th, he sat down in his Austin studio, the familiar red glow of the on-air sign flickering to life. His guest that night was an enigmatic figure, a former insider from Ryan and Blake's inner circle, someone who'd seen the cracks beneath the polished surface. What followed would become the most explosive episode of the Joe Rogan experience yet. Joe leaned into the mic, his voice steady but laced with anticipation. "All right, folks, buckle up," he began, his signature grin audible even through the airwaves. "We're diving into something wild tonight, something Hollywood doesn't want you to hear." His guest, a wiry man with nervous eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses, nodded silently. The internet was already buzzing, X-posts flying as listeners tuned in live. Joe didn't waste time. Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, they're the perfect couple, right? America's sweethearts. But what if I told you it's all a house of cards? What if I told you there's a dark secret they've been burying for years? The chat exploded, emojis, all-caps rants, and conspiracy theories lighting up screens worldwide. Joe's guest shifted uncomfortably, then dropped the first bomb. "I worked for them," he said, voice low. "I saw things they'd kill to keep quiet." Joe's eyebrows shot up, and he pressed further, the way only he could. "What are we talking about here? Affairs? Money laundering? What?" The guest hesitated, then leaned in. "It's worse than that." The revelation hit like a thunderclap. According to the insider, Ryan and Blake had been running a secret operation, a shadowy network of influence that extended far beyond their public personas. It wasn't just about fame or fortune, it was about power. The insider claimed they'd leveraged their charm and connections to manipulate casting decisions, silence critics, and even bury scandals that threatened their empire. "They've got dirt on everyone," he said, hands trembling. "Directors, producers, even other actors. They've been playing puppet master for years." Joe sat back, letting the weight of it sink in. "So you're telling me Ryan Reynolds, The guy selling us aviation gin with a smirk is some kind of Hollywood godfather? The guest nodded. And Blake's right there with him. She's not just the pretty face. She's the brains. Listeners were losing their minds. X trending with hashtag Rogan BOMBSHELL and hashtag Reynolds lively exposed within minutes. The story didn't stop there. The insider pulled out a stack of documents, blurry photos, cryptic emails, and financial records he claimed tied Ryan and Blake to a web of offshore accounts. They've been funneling money, he said. Millions. Not just from movies, side deals, hush money, you name it. Joe flipped through the papers, his skepticism warring with intrigue. Okay, but why? They're already loaded. What's the end game? The guest's answer was chilling. Control. They want to own Hollywood, not just star in it. And they'll destroy anyone who gets in their way. He recounted a specific incident, a rising actress who'd crossed Blake during a film shoot. Within months, her career tanked, rumors of addiction and diva behavior swirling. That was them, the guest whispered. They planted it all. Joe whistled low. Man, this is some next-level shit. Hollywood woke up the next morning to chaos. The episode had racked up millions of streams overnight, and the internet was a battlefield. Ryan and Blake's PR team scrambled, issuing a vague statement about baseless accusations and respecting their privacy. But the damage was done. Fans were divided. Some clung to their love for the couple, dismissing Joe's guest as a fame-hungry liar, while others dug deeper, unearthing old interviews and odd coincidences that seemed to back the claims. X was a war zone of memes and hot takes. Deadpool's the real villain now? One user quipped, while another posted a gif of Blake in Gossip Girl with the caption, Serena van der Woodsen was practice. Even celebrities weighed in, some subtly shading the couple, others defending them with cryptic tweets. The tabloids feasted, splashing headlines like Rogan rips Reynolds and Lively apart across every newsstand. Ryan and Blake, meanwhile, went dark. No witty Instagram posts, no charming late-night show appearances, just silence. Insiders whispered they'd holed up in their New York estate, strategizing with lawyers and crisis managers. Joe, undeterred, doubled down on his next episode. Look, I'm not saying it's all true, he told his audience, puffing on a cigar. But where there's smoke, there's fire. And this is a damn inferno. He brought on a second guest, a disgruntled producer who'd worked with Ryan years back. He's not what he seems, the producer said. On set, he's Mr. Nice Guy. Behind closed doors? Ruthless. The producer claimed Ryan had once tanked a co-star's career over a petty feud, using his clout to blacklist them. And Blake, she's worse. She'll smile to your face while twisting the knife. Joe laughed, half in disbelief. So Deadpool and Serena are the Bonnie and Clyde of Hollywood? That's insane. The fallout stretched on for weeks. The rom-com's release was pushed back, sponsors pulled ads, and whispers of lawsuits filled the air. Some in Hollywood quietly cheered Joe on, grateful someone had finally called out the power couple's reign. Others branded him a conspiracy peddler, accusing him of chasing clout. The insider's documents were dissected online, some dismissed as fakes, others deemed suspiciously legit. Ryan broke his silence with a cryptic X post, "Truth always comes out. Stay tuned." Blake followed with a photo of their kids, captioned, "Family first." The moves only fueled the fire. Were they deflecting or hinting at a counterattack? Joe, ever the provocateur, teased a third episode. "We're just getting started," he grinned, eyes glinting with mischief. As spring turned to summer, the saga became a cultural touchstone. Late-night hosts mocked it, podcasts debated it, and TikTok turned it into a meme goldmine. Ryan and Blake's once unshakable brand wobbled. Some fans swore off their movies, others doubled down on their loyalty. Hollywood itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see if the couple would crumble or claw their way back. Joe Rogan, love him or hate him, had done the impossible. He'd shaken the unshakable. And as the dust settled, one thing was clear: this was no mere gossip. It was a reckoning, a crack in the glittering facade that might never fully heal. The king and queen had been challenged, and the throne of Hollywood trembled beneath them. Summer stretched on, and the Hollywood air grew thick with tension. The initial shock of Joe Rogan's revelations had settled into a simmering unease, like the calm before a second, more devastating storm. Ryan and Blake, once the untouchable darlings of the red carpet, now faced a fractured fanbase and a wary industry. Whispers turned to shouts as more insiders crept out of the woodwork, emboldened by Joe's platform. A former assistant claimed Blake had once orchestrated a smear campaign against a rival actress during award season, planting stories of tantrums and affairs to edge her out of contention. "She didn't just want to win," the assistant said on a rival podcast. "She wanted to erase her." Joe, catching wind of it, invited the assistant onto his show, grinning as he lit another cigar. "See, this is what I'm talking about. Layers on layers. These two don't mess around." The counterattack came swiftly. Ryan, ever the charmer, surfaced on a late-night show, his trademark grin dialed up to 11. "Look, I've been called a lot of things. Deadpool, sexiest man alive, gin salesman," he quipped, earning laughs from the audience. "But puppet master? That's a new one." He dodged the meat of the accusations, spinning it into a self-deprecating bit about his lack of organizational skills. Blake followed with a glossy magazine spread, artful photos of her in a rustic kitchen, kids in tow, paired with a soft-spoken interview about protecting what matters. The PR blitz was textbook Hollywood: deflect, disarm, dazzle. But Joe wasn't buying it. "They're good, I'll give 'em that," he said on his next episode. "But you don't dodge a nuke like this with a smile and a photo shoot. People aren't that dumb." The fans, though, were split down the middle. On X, hashtag Team Reynolds Lively trended alongside hashtag Rogan was right, a digital tug-of-war that spilled into real life. Protests popped up outside movie premieres, some waving signs defending the couple's family values, others demanding accountability with slogans like "Hollywood's not your playground." The rom-com, quietly retitled and rescheduled for a fall release, became a litmus test. Would audiences show up for the fairy tale, or had Joe's bombshell poisoned the well? Box office analysts hedged their bets, but insiders predicted a flop. "They've lost the magic," one studio exec muttered over cocktails at Chateau Marmont. "People don't trust the fairy tale anymore." Meanwhile, Joe kept the pressure on. He brought in a forensic accountant to dissect the offshore account claims, projecting spreadsheets across his studio screen like a general mapping a battlefield. "Look at this, money moving through shell companies tied to production deals," the accountant explained, pointing to a trail that allegedly linked Ryan's gin brand to mysterious investments. Joe rubbed his temples, half laughing. "Man, I just wanted to talk about UFC and aliens. Now I'm in a goddamn crime novel." The episode racked up views, and X lit up with amateur sleuths tracing the financial breadcrumbs. One user posted a blurry screenshot of a bank statement, claiming it was the smoking gun. True or not, it kept the story alive. Hollywood's old guard watched from the sidelines, some smirking at the chaos, others sweating as their own skeletons rattled in the closet. A veteran director, known for gritty crime flicks, gave a rare interview hinting at the couple's influence. Reynolds and Lively aren't the first to play this game, he said, sipping scotch. But they're the first to get caught. His words fueled speculation. Were they just the tip of the iceberg? Joe seized on it, teasing a part 4 of his exposé. If this is a game, we're pulling the whole board apart, he promised, eyes glinting. The industry braced itself, knowing his reach could topple more than just one power couple. Ryan and Blake's next move was bold. They announced a tell-all documentary, promising their side of the story. The trailer dropped online, a slick montage of home videos, teary confessions, and triumphant career highlights, set to swelling music. "We've made mistakes," Ryan's voiceover intoned, "but we've never stopped fighting for what's real." Blake's doe-eyed close-up followed. "This is about truth." Cynics rolled their eyes, calling it damage control dressed up as art. Joe, watching from Austin, chuckled. "A movie to fix a scandal about movies? That's ballsy." He vowed to review it live on air, frame by frame, the moment it hit streaming. Fans marked their calendars. Another showdown loomed. The documentary's release in late fall was a circus. Streaming numbers soared, but reviews were brutal. Critics called it self-serving and hollow, accusing the couple of dodging the real questions. X erupted with memes. Ryan's gin bottle photoshopped into a puppet's hand, Blake's smile captioned, "Trust me, I'm innocent." Yet some fans bought in, by the couple's vulnerability. "They're human, not monsters," one supporter tweeted, sparking a thread that stretched thousands deep. Joe's live reaction didn't disappoint. "This is PR 101, he said, pausing the stream to rant. "Mistakes? Sure. But where's the part about the blackmail, the money, the power trips? This ain't truth. It's a script." Legal rumblings grew louder. Whispers of defamation suits against Joe and his guests swirled, though nothing materialized, yet. The insider from the first episode vanished, fueling theories he'd been paid off or worse. Joe shrugged it off. "If they sue, bring it on. I've got the receipts." Behind the scenes, Ryan and Blake's team reportedly hired top-tier lawyers, preparing a war chest. Hollywood held its breath, wondering if the courtroom would be the next battleground. A producer friend of Joe's warned him over beers, "You've poked the bear, man. They don't lose quietly." Joe just grinned. "Good. Let's see how loud they roar." By winter, the saga had reshaped the landscape. Ryan and Blake's star power dimmed, projects stalled, endorsements wavered, but they clung to relevance, leaning on loyalists and nostalgia. Joe emerged as a folk hero to some, a chaos agent to others, his podcast now a lightning rod for industry secrets. The rom-com limped into theaters, barely breaking even, a shadow of the blockbuster it was meant to be. At a rare public appearance, Ryan cracked a joke about surviving the apocalypse, but his eyes betrayed the strain. Blake, beside him, smiled tightly, her grace intact but her aura shaken. As 2025 closed, the question lingered, who won? Joe had landed his punch, exposing cracks in the Hollywood machine, but Ryan and Blake endured, battered yet standing. The industry adapted, as it always did. New scandals eclipsed the old, and the cycle churned on. Joe signed off his final episode of the year with a nod to the saga. "Truth's messy, folks, but it's worth chasing. See you in 26. In the quiet of their estate, Ryan poured a gin, Blake lit a fire, and the game, however bruised, played on. Hollywood trembled still, but it never stopped turning. The new year dawned cold and crisp in 2026, but the heat of the previous year's drama refused to fade. Joe Rogan's bombshell had left a permanent scar on Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively's empire, yet Hollywood's machine hummed on, recalibrating around the wreckage. The couple, though bruised, refused to retreat entirely. Ryan launched a new gin campaign, edgier, darker, leaning into the bad boy vibe with slogans like "Stirred, not shaken." Blake, meanwhile, pivoted to a passion project, a gritty indie film about betrayal, as if daring critics to read between the lines. Their fans rallied, sensing a comeback, but the shadow of Joe's revelations lingered. X buzzed with speculation. Were they reinventing themselves, or just papering over the cracks? Joe, never one to rest, kicked off the year with a bang. "We're not done with this," he declared on his first episode of 2026, slamming a fresh stack of papers on the desk. His latest guest was a former publicist who'd worked with Ryan and Blake during their peak. She spilled tea hotter than Joe's coffee. They had a blacklist, names of people they wanted out. Actors, journalists, even crew members. She claimed to have seen emails where Blake demanded a reporter's firing after a lukewarm profile, and Ryan allegedly strong-armed a studio into shelving a rival's film. Joe leaned back, incredulous. "So they're not just players, they're dictators?" The publicist nodded. "They called it protecting the brand. I called it a vendetta." The episode reignited the firestorm. X lit up with #Reynolds blacklist trending, as users dug up old stories of mysteriously derailed careers. Actors who'd faded after crossing Ryan, writers who'd vanished after panning Blake. One post went viral, a grainy photo of Ryan at a party, glaring at a now-forgotten co-star, captioned, "The look that ended a career." True or not, it fed the narrative. Joe's inbox flooded with tips, some legit, some unhinged, but he sifted through them like a prospector panning for gold. "This isn't about one couple anymore," he told his audience. "It's about who really runs this town." Hollywood's elite squirmed, sensing the spotlight creeping closer. Ryan and Blake's response was icy silence. No quips, no rebuttals, just a steely focus on their projects. But behind closed doors, sources said tempers flared. A leaked audio clip surfaced online, allegedly of Ryan ranting to his team. "Rogan thinks he's untouchable? We'll see." The voice was distorted, authenticity debated, but it sent chills through the industry. Blake, ever the strategist, reportedly pushed for a truce. Focus on rebuilding, let the storm pass. Yet Ryan's pride, insiders whispered, wouldn't let him back down. "He wants a fight," a friend confided to a tabloid. "He's ready to burn it all down if he has to." The legal chessboard finally activated. In March 2026, Ryan and Blake filed a defamation suit against Joe and his original insider, seeking millions in damages. The filing was a bombshell of its own. Pages of legalese accusing Joe of reckless falsehoods and malicious intent. Joe took it in stride, grinning on air. "They're mad, huh? Good. Let's dance." He hired a bulldog attorney, promising to countersue if needed. The case promised a circus, depositions, leaked texts, maybe even courtroom showdowns. Fans picked sides, betting on who'd blink first. X turned it into a meme fest, Joe versus Deadpool, place your bets. Hollywood watched, half in horror, half in awe. The suit risked exposing more than either side intended. Subpoenas could unearth emails, contracts, dirty laundry galore. A producer mused over lunch at the Ivy. "This isn't about winning. It's about who bleeds less." Ryan and Blake's indie projects pressed on, but sponsors grew skittish, and studios hesitated on big bets. Joe's podcast soared, each episode a grenade lobbed at the couple's defenses. He brought on a hacker who claimed to have cracked an encrypted drive tied to Ryan's company. Files hinting at payoffs to silence whistleblowers. "If this is real," Joe said, holding up a USB, "it's game over." Spring brought a twist no one saw coming. A rival power couple, let's call them Tom and Emma, A-listers with their own pristine image, stepped into the fray, publicly backing Ryan and Blake. "We've known them for years," Tom said at a charity gala. "This is a witch hunt." Emma nodded, clutching his arm. "Joe's chasing ghosts." Their support was a lifeline, rallying Hollywood's old guard to the cause. But Joe smelled blood. "Funny how the perfect ones always defend each other," he mused on air, hinting at digging into Tom and Emma next. X exploded with theories. Were they part of the same game? The hashtag Hollywood cartel trended for days. The trial loomed by summer, but cracks showed elsewhere. Blake's indie film tanked at Sundance. Critics called it tone-deaf. Audiences stayed away. Ryan's gin sales dipped, the Bad Boy rebrand failing to stick. Their documentary, once a streaming hit, became a punchline, mocked in skits and parodies. Joe, meanwhile, thrived. His audience swelled, his credibility bolstered by every new tip. Yet he wasn't unscathed. Legal fees piled up, and threats rolled in, anonymous calls, cryptic emails. "They're scared," he told a buddy off mic. "That's when they get dangerous." Still, he pressed on, undeterred. By fall, the saga felt like a war of attrition. The courtroom showdown began, a media frenzy packing the galleries. Ryan took the stand, charm dialed low, voice tight. "We've built everything from nothing. This is an attack on our lives." Blake followed, poised but pale. "I just want my family safe." Joe, in his turn, was pure Joe, blunt, unpolished, defiant. "I'm not here to play nice. I'm here for the truth." Evidence flew. Documents, recordings, witnesses painting dueling portraits of heroes and villains. Outside, protesters clashed, some chanting for justice, others for mercy. X tracked every twist, a live scoreboard of outrage and intrigue. As winter 2026 crept in, the verdict hung in limbo, deliberations stretching weeks. Hollywood had changed, less glossy, more guarded, its power brokers exposed yet entrenched. Ryan and Blake, win or lose, faced a long climb back. Joe, whatever the outcome, had cemented his legend, a disruptor who'd shaken the unshakable. The final gavel would fall soon, but the story, raw, messy, unrelenting, lived on. In the quiet of his studio, Joe lit a cigar, staring at the mic. "Round one's done," he muttered. "Round two's gonna be wild." And somewhere, in a city of dreams turned nightmares, Ryan and Blake braced for what came next.